Welcome to Small Business, Big Network, the podcast for small business owners who want big results from their networking. I'm Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist who knows that if you're not working, then networking could help. Alison Matthews is the founder of Virtue Alley, a virtual assistant service. She's found networking invaluable, and not just for business reasons. She's even had fellow networkers help her out when her car broke down. If her name seems familiar to you, that's because she's sponsored the last 2 episodes of Small Business Big Network. Thanks for that, Ali. Thank you very much for being my guest on the podcast today, Alison.
Thank you, Liz, for inviting me along.
Now, you're a virtual assistant based in Northern Ireland, but I want to know about your background first. I believe that you studied languages, is that right?
I did, yes. I did French and German at Queen's University in Belfast. And then I used my languages really in everywhere that I could in a sort of export and tourism fields in Northern Ireland before heading abroad for a while. Yeah,
so what were your first jobs out of university?
Yeah, so my very first job was with a very large carpet manufacturer in Northern Ireland who have a big export department who would make a lot of custom carpets for very high-end hotel chain groups and cruise ships.
Oh.
And so I worked in the export department, and we had sale agents all around the world. And because I spoke French and German, I helped to deal with that. So I was the export sales administrator, helping to deal with contacts in Europe.
Yeah, and then you went abroad. So what took you abroad? Where did you go, and what were you doing?
Yeah, I went to Luxembourg, which was a very sort of fluky thing because I had worked for a while. I went to France first, and I worked with First Choice, the ski company.
Oh, yeah.
In their ski resort office, which was a wee tiny village in the middle of the French Alps. And when I was there for just a season, really, which was fabulous. I mean, one of those places, because my little nephew's just away skiing this week, and I said, I had a place where you could ski out.
Oh.
You could ski, and when it was very quiet, at certain times of year it was very quiet, you could just ski down the street.
Wow.
To the office, which was quite cool. But yeah, I was there for a while, and when I was there, actually, I saw a job advertised in Luxembourg, and strangely, I had been in Luxembourg a long time before that because I did like a month sort of study at a university in Trier, which is just on the Luxembourg-German border. But we had flown in and out of Luxembourg when we went there, and we had been back a weekend, and I thought, oh, it's lovely. And then I saw a job advertised, and I thought, well, that's a nice place.
Yeah.
I'll give that a go and see what happens.
And so what was the job? Who was it for?
Yes, that was for the European Investment Bank, and at the time they were advertising for what they called mobile assistants, and they wanted English native speakers or people who had really good English, because actually because there was all the different European nationalities who worked there, a lot of the working language actually was English.
Yeah.
And so they wanted, they had a sort of a pool of assistants that you could apply to be in. And when I went, just by chance, they had just started on a new building project, like a massive new headquarters, and the architect was French, and the project management company was German, and they did the project in English, but they wanted someone who could understand both.
Yeah.
So I thought initially, I'll go for a year or two, but of course, as with all building projects, it ran on a bit, and then I loved Luxembourg so much that I ended up staying there for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you need to know anything about investment banking at all?
No, not at all, because I was we were in the new building department, which it was more facilities management really. So I didn't need to know anything about banking, fortunately.
So you started off working there because they had this big building project.
Yeah.
But you say 10 years. What? Presumably you moved on, did other things for them too, did you?
Yes, I ended up near the end. I worked in the central operations department because they had well over 1,500 employees when I was there, but we had lots of different departments, and we were the central one that sort of helped to coordinate everybody's activities, because there was a lot of people and a lot of moving parts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like an amazing opportunity that you had there.
Yes.
So what made you return to Northern Ireland?
I don't know. I think I got to the stage, as a lot of people do when they're living as an expat like that, so, I don't know, something just calls about home. And we always sort of joked that Luxembourg was a bit of a bubble, and we were the bubble within the bubble, and that life, I don't know, the call of home just came, and I thought, well, is it time to go home? I've been away for 10 years, and my parents, my dad had actually died just before I went to Luxembourg, but my mum was still alive and not getting any younger, and my sister, I think she was pregnant at the time I decided to leave, and I thought, I don't want to be that far away from home, because it was a long trek to get back to Northern Ireland. So
yeah. And so did you have a job to come back to or not?
No, I didn't. I sort of had started to look for things. I'd had a few interviews, but along the way I saw Susan Moore, who's in Essex. She had a 2-day in-person course in London, and she had been a virtual assistant for a long time, and her course was actually called from PA to VA, so from personal assistant to virtual assistant. And I thought, goodness, that sounds quite interesting. And this was back in 2014. And so I went to that, met her, thought this is for me, and ended up did her training for the weekend, then ended up being an associate to her, and that's really how I started. So I left Luxembourg, came back home, became an associate for her, and did some work, and worked part-time as well in an office in Belfast, just to get me sort of started.
So what does a VA do?
Well, a VA can do anything. And I have met a lot of virtual assistants along the way, and we all do slightly different things. And I started out, as I think many people do at the very beginning, doing very general, anything, really anything. And I was actually joking with a virtual assistant I was talking to the other day, who started way back in 2000. And we were just laughing at the diverse things we have done, and that in my part has included everything from buying dog coats from ski shops to researching how to get a mobile kitchen sink for an event. So it really is everything in the kitchen sink. And over the years, I niched down really into helping people with events and building out online courses, because those are projects, and that's, I love, that's what I've always loved. I've loved to have something that has a sort of a start, a middle, and an end. Yeah. With lots of moving parts that you have to pull together.
Yeah. Now, I love the name of your business, Virtue Alley. Did that come to you very easily, that name?
It did not. I was stuck for ages, and actually I have a very good friend who lives in Glasgow now, who I shared accommodation with at university, and it was her that phoned me one day and she said, I've got your name. So that's how it was born.
Yeah, no, brilliant. So what kind of projects do people come to you with?
Well, this year, for example, I've had 2 organisations who are membership organisations who are creating events, like a one-day conference type events, and who have, they're trying to research the venue, they're trying to think about the speakers and the running order, and how they're going to invite people and where they're going to advertise the event. So there's just a lot of things to think about, and often it's just not one person coming to me. It's, like a membership organisation or a committee where there's lots of different people and lots of different voices, and it's quite handy to have one person who can pull all the information together and make that happen.
Yeah. And who are your clients? Are they from any particular sector, and where in the world are they?
Yeah, they're mostly UK based. I've had some clients from Luxembourg. I have a German client as well, and they're very varied. So I've had really, over the years, I've had I have a trainer who's a dog, a client who's a dog trainer. I've had matchmakers. My very first client actually was a matchmaker who just set up her own matchmaking business. And I've had candle makers, so I've had, but I'd say more in recent years, it's more sort of membership groups, committees, people who have a bigger budget for events, probably.
Yeah.
and councils.
And what kind of tasks do you find that people want you to do because they really hate doing them?
Well, I think, admin is not, it's not a sexy thing. It's not a sexy thing. And I think that's a thing, because with events and online courses, there's just a lot of background work. And I think the thing that most people, it's actually getting started. It's at the start when you think, oh, I have an idea. How do I actually make this happen? And that's where most people come to me and say, I've got this idea, I've got the contacts in a lot of the cases, but I just don't know, where to put it or how to advertise it or how to upload it. So it's a mixture of those things.
Yeah. Are there sort of particular kinds of project that you really like to do?
Well, I have to say, I do really like events, and it can be stressful. You always have that sort of element of stress in it, and maybe that's, in a weird way, what I thrive on. And even on Friday, I'm helping an organisation in Belfast organise an event on Friday for startups. And I'm nervous, I'd still be nervous about that, even though we check all the details and all the rest. I always think, will everything be okay on the day? Yeah. But yeah, and I love, I suppose, for any event, it is the fact that you're helping either someone to grow their own business or to shine. And I've helped set up a lot of artisan markets with a company called Babel in Northern Ireland. I've been subcontracted to them, and over the last 7 or 8 years we've held hundreds of artisan markets. And when we think about all the people who've come to trade at those and who've gone on maybe to open their own shops or have an online business and really thrive because they've got that exposure.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you mentioned earlier on about helping people who are setting up courses. How do you help them?
Yes, well, so it's the same idea. I consider a course the same way that I do as an event, that it is a project, and that that you have to break it down into bite-sized places to make it happen. And so I would help people either from the start look at if they have a course idea, will it fly, or review courses that maybe someone has started and for some technical reason or another reason didn't finish, and also to help people review maybe where they've had a course up and it's not selling, and to look at maybe the content of it. But I do, myself and Louise Ladd from Pretty Little Ducks, we're collaborating together to help people build out courses A to Z. So I sort of help with all the research of the platforms and giving advice on, making the material. And then I would help people upload that into a course platform. And Louise, who, as her name suggests, Pretty Little Ducks, makes everything pretty. So the graphics, the workbooks, the presentations, she does all that end of it. Yeah.
Now, things must have moved on quite a lot over the last 10 years that you've been doing this job, with apps and automation and so on. How's your job changed?
Yeah, I think the fact that the thing that stayed the same, I suppose, is that you still have that trust and the relationship with your client. That hasn't changed. You have to build that trust up, and that people sort of give you a little task to do and then think, oh yes, I trust her to do this, let's keep going. From the virtual world, I've worked from home now for the last 10 years, so that's not such a big, that was never a big, change for me, even with the pandemic. But I think now with all the apps, and I was laughing the other day because I went on to some site and I can't even remember what it was, but there was a chat bot that flashed up and said, oh, I'm Lisa, your virtual assistant. Oh, it was for a car dealership, that's what it was for. It was, Lisa, I'm your virtual assistant. And I thought, isn't that so funny? Because when I started out 10 years ago now, no one knew what a virtual assistant was. Yeah. I don't know if Alexa and Siri even existed then. Maybe just had started to exist. And now sure we use Alexa for everything. And I can only see that, things like that the technology there is, and the AI technology especially there is now, I can really see Alexa and all of those things. It will get to a stage that you'll just say to Alexa, book my flight to Rio de Janeiro, here's my credit card, this is where I want to sit. Yeah. Off you go. We'll definitely get to that stage.
Yeah. So I guess a lot of people come to you because they're just overwhelmed and don't know where to start with things.
Yes.
And you have to be really organised. Have you always been an organised person? Were you organised when you were at school?
I have to say, I was the library prefect, which I think just says everything, doesn't it? I don't know. I grew up in a house, like my mum and dad both had several jobs, and we just had to be organised, you know. There wasn't a lot of time. My mum sold Avon for a long time as well, and I can clearly remember me and my sister sitting with her at the kitchen table, like, you know, putting all the products into the little bags and making sure it went to the right people. So I think there was a lot of yes, a lot of that started at home as well.
Do you still use your language skills in your current role?
I don't really. I have a German client, as I said, but he's in a tech. He's a tech founder, and even though they're the people he work with, a lot of their exchange is in English. So I don't so much. Like I still I can understand people when they speak, and it's nice now Netflix and all these other programs that you have now on TV where there's actually a lot of, you know, you actually hear a lot of different accents and people talking now, which you wouldn't when I was young.
Yeah. So is it expensive to have a VA?
I'd say it's much more expensive not to have a VA. Because, you know, there is that thing. It's like me having a cleaner or going to the car wash. That you always have to think, well, if my own time as a business owner is like, if I'm worth 40, 50, 100, 200 pounds, sort of an hour equivalent, can I hire out some tasks to a VA who's a third of that price? And the thing that's always stuck with me over the years, someone said to me, you know, if you're doing tasks yourself that you don't like, you're stuck in the circle of you put it off for ages so you're not doing them. Then when you do it, you're absolutely it takes you forever because you don't know how to do it efficiently. And then afterwards you're exhausted because it took you all that the double effort to get it done. And, you know, if you can, and I was talking to someone yesterday who was talking about outsourcing their marketing, and I was like, well, if you could get someone to create all your content and keep an eye on your messages and do all that, you know, and do it for 150 upwards, you know, whatever, between 150 and 300 pounds a month, think of what you could be doing in that time. That could be potentially 6 hours of your time saved where you could be out really doing you know, having interaction one-to-one with your clients and having a VIP day at whatever, you know. So
yeah, definitely. So let's have a chat about networking now, because I know that networking is something that you like to do. What kind of networking do you do for your business?
Yeah, I do. I do a lot of online networking, and actually this year I promised myself, especially in January and February, to do a bit more in person, because I find as the year goes on, I get busier with events, and so this year in January, February, actually I went out to quite a few networking events in my own area and further afield in Belfast and further. And I live, you know, I'm in a very rural place at the end of a road that, like, the next stop is the lock, so you have to get a boat across to the next place. So, you know, it takes a bit of an effort to go out, but I've always done online networking. Well, not always, sorry. I've always tried to network. Also because when I came back to Northern Ireland after 10 years in Luxembourg, I didn't know very many people who were in business. Yeah. And so I thought, well, I am going to have to network like hell to actually understand how to run a business and to get myself known so that someone will actually do business with me. So that's how it started.
Yeah. And I know also that you have been running a network till quite recently. Tell me about that.
Yes. So I was hosting, it wasn't my organisation, but I used to host the online meetings for the Mums at Work network in Northern Ireland. Well, it's actually UK wide. So I used to host the Wednesday online meetings for them, which was great fun, I have to say. It's funny because I joined just as a participant the other day, and it's just a totally different feeling being the host and being the participant. But yeah, I just find that fascinating to do that because you meet so many people, and it's so interesting to see the sort of the common problems that people have as business owners and how you can support them.
Yeah. So what have you got from networking? for you and for your business?
Yeah, I think I definitely got business. I definitely have got business. I suppose that's why we all network. We network to build relationships, but also to get business. And it's funny because I was at a networking event on Friday and my car broke down.
Oh no!
Really quite dramatically at a roundabout just before, and I was in real panic because it was in a place I don't know at all. And I phoned like other people that I knew in the network and went, oh my goodness, like, do you know a breakdown recovery service? Where are you? And I got so much help from people that was nothing to do with my business. It was just people having the contacts. And I think too, when you're in the event industry, you need to have an enormous amount of contacts for people that you can call on for the kitchen sinks and everything else, and the gas certification tests and everything else. But definitely, and during the pandemic, I was so lucky because I had actually met a man who has a big network in the Republic of Ireland, and I met him like the day or two before lockdown. In Sweden, ironically enough. And he has a massive network, and he had a call like every day for about a year and a half with people, really Ireland, the UK and Ireland, and that really saved me mentally during lockdown, because obviously it was very isolating, but also from a business point of view, because a lot of people in that group actually had online face-to-face businesses, and then suddenly had to go online, and I had the luxury of having an online business, and using Zoom and all those things, that suddenly people were like, oh my God, how do we use Zoom? Before that.
Well, I just love the story about your car breaking down and people from the network helping you out. That just sort of shows the power of networking, doesn't it? Totally. And I think you're I don't know. I don't think you can have a business. You can't. I don't know. I don't think you can have a business without a network, really. And it is the people that you can call upon when your car breaks down. Or the year before last, my mummy was very ill, and very suddenly very ill, and there was other virtual assistants that I knew through my network, and all those years I was able to say, can you take this over and can you help me with this, because I just don't have the capacity for it. So it's people are there in the good times and the bad. Yes, absolutely. So one final question then, Ali. If people are interested in your Virtual Ali services, or they want to connect with you, what is the best place for them to find you?
Yes, well, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn quite frequently, and it's Alison Matthews. And you can find me at my website is Virtuali, so it's www.virtuali.uk. And I'm also on Instagram and Facebook as Virtuali Admin Solutions.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much for being my guest today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Small Business, Big Network. If you found this podcast useful, please do rate, review and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with the rest of your network too.